Many persons have the wrong idea of what constitutes true happiness. It is not attained through self-gratification, but through fidelity of a worthy purpose. That is a quote by Helen Keller.
Welcome to Trina Talk. Trina Talk is a weekly podcast that will inspire and empower women of all ages to strive for the impossible. Your host, Trina L. Martin from TrinaMartin.com, is a motivational speaker, leader, and cyber tech expert. Every week, Trina will share wisdom gained from her life experiences and lessons learned while pursuing her goals to inspire you to achieve the next level in your life. Now, your host, Trina L. Martin.
Hello, welcome to Trina Talk. I am your host, Trina L. Martin, and this is episode 73. The topic of this week's episode is Get Happy Now. My guest this week is Carla Maree Simpson. Carla Maree is an entrepreneur, author, speaker, and yoga instructor at Happy Hot Yoga, and she is on a mission to make the world a happier place. She believes everyone deserves to get happy now. Carla Maree left home at 18 and traveled overseas where she lived and partied as a backpacker and actor for 3.5 years. She traveled to 49 countries, experiencing what this world really had to offer. Hi, Carla. Welcome to Trina Talk.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. We are familiar with each other. I was actually on your podcast and I had a great time. And now you're doing me a favor on being on mine. And I just was going over your bio and you have just an amazing background. And I'm very interested to learn more about you. You are an author, you're a speaker, you're a podcast host as well, but you've had an interesting journey. So tell me who Carla is and what made you who you are today.
Yeah, sure. So I started, I'm one of 4 in my family. I have 3 older brothers. And obviously, well, for the people that don't know my accent, I'm Australian. So I grew up just an hour north of Sydney. And I always wanted to be an actress. That was what, got me up as a little girl. I always wanted to be the next Nicole Kidman. And I was very driven going to, I went to drama as a little girl and then I always wanted to go to acting school. So when I was in year 11 and 12, I auditioned for like a performing arts high school and I ended up going there. And then I had set a goal that I wanted to go to New York to study acting. So my parents were always really supportive of me, but they said, we can't afford to support you to get there. So if you get in and you can save up the money, then you can go. Like there's no problem with that. So I started to really work hard and I had a job as like a casual job, but it was in sales, and my sales manager was really into like self-development, self-growth, and kept giving me all these books to read, like Napoleon Hill. And I started to take that really on. And I was like, wow, I want to, help. I'm going to use all these tools to help build up my money savings and things like this. And I built up a vision board. I put it on my wall. And over the course of like a year, I couldn't believe what I'd achieved that was on my vision board. And I couldn't believe that I saved up all the money to get to New York. And then I got accepted to go study at the Lee Strasberg School in New York. So that was, it was epic. And that really started me on my journey. So then I packed my bags and I moved off overseas and I lived in New York and I felt like I was Sarah Jessica Parker in Sex and the City. I just loved it. And I had a great time. And then when my schooling finished there and I was trying to get a visa to stay, but it was a bit complicated, I decided that I loved living overseas and I decided to move to London. And London was awesome as well. I didn't know anyone really there. I had one person that I knew, and I dossed on her couch for a few weeks until I sort of started to get myself sorted. And then I got, into the acting scene there. And I did acting there for about, I'd say, a year, pretty consistently. But then I got caught up a little bit in the Australian backpackers party life. And I just started having a great time. Not that I wasn't having a good time before that, but just more party lifestyle. And my friends from Australia my two best friends from Australia couldn't believe my photos and what I was doing. So they decided to pack their bags and come over. And then they lived on my couch. And we just partied. Like, I'm not talking like 7 days a week. We were out partying, but having parties at our home. And it was just really cheap to travel. So we traveled. I remember one weekend I went to Switzerland for like £7 return. So I had a really good time doing all that. But I was just lost in my own party life, and my acting has sort of fallen by a little bit. But then I decided that I wanted to travel more and that I love what the world had to offer. And when my visa was up in London, I decided to backpack for a year. So I did most of Europe. I did lots of the festivals, running the bulls, Oktoberfest. I worked I went to like Egypt, Africa. I worked in an orphanage in Africa, did the gorilla trekking in Uganda. So I still really got to see so much of the world, and I'm so grateful for that because I really learnt so much about the world and about myself in that time. But then what happened to me was all my visas were gone and I had run out of money and I had to land back in Australia. And I landed on my parents' doorstep with no money, and I was really lost because I'd lived overseas for so long, and I felt very different to what I was when I left here. And I remember sitting on the plane on the way home just thinking, gosh, is anyone going to even like me? I'm such a different person. And I was really nervous about that. And I came back and I found it really hard to fit back into the lifestyle here. I'd grown apart from a lot of my friends, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I knew that I only wanted to do things that made me happy. I made that decision on the plane ride home, and I wanted to get back into acting, but I didn't want to be slugging away as an actor, working another job on the side that I didn't like. And then the opportunity came. I became a PT, personal trainer, to just help with my acting on the side. But then an opportunity came to go into business with my dad, and we opened up a gym franchise, which is Anytime Fitness. And I've had that now for 7 years. So that was a really big decision at the time. And, I still, I remember the turmoil I was going through thinking, can I do this? I don't know if I can live in Australia. I wanted to backpack. And then someone said to me, you can't keep running away forever. And I was like, why not? But opening that gym was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I had to go into business learning everything from scratch. I'd never even worked in an office. I'd never had any staff. I didn't even know how to use Word, Excel, or anything like that. So I really dug in deep. And when I put my mind to something, I really put my mind to it. But I started to get really caught up in, this entrepreneur lifestyle of getting up, of making my goals happen, of really slugging. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was just caught up in this treadmill of life. And I used to run a lot, training for marathons and things like this. And my knees were starting to really fail on me. And I was going to see a physiotherapist. And he said to me, Carla, you can't keep going on this way. You need to start to do something else, maybe some yoga. You got to start doing gentle things because your knees are going to fail on you. And I heard it, but I wasn't listening to it. And then one of the races that I did, I cried myself to the end of the finish line because my knees were hurting so much, my legs, and I couldn't run anymore. I was walking, I was hobbling. And at that moment I thought, oh my goodness, I have to go to yoga. And I hated yoga at the time. I just hated it so much. My mum was always doing it as a little girl, and anything that, was trying to stop me from being rushing and in that mode of pushing, I wasn't into back then. Anyways, I dragged myself to a yoga class, and one of the first yoga classes I ever did, I say it changed my life. I really discovered that I had this voice inside my head, and that this voice was talking to me all the time. And I also discovered what true happiness was, and that it didn't come from anything else. It just came from me and within myself. And the more I started to uncover this, the more I started to really dig deep into yoga, and I started to fall in love with meditation as well. And I will say that yoga has changed my life, and I just wanted to help other people. I thought, oh my goodness, this stuff isn't as bad as everyone, as I thought. And I decided to open my own yoga school because I loved what it did for me, and I wanted to be able to help out the people in my local community and offer this to other people. So I decided to open up my own yoga school, and I've now had that for 5 years, and it's a little community hub, and I love that. I just taught class this morning. So I teach normally mornings and night times, just depending on what my schedule allows. But the more I've discovered yoga the more I keep just discovering more about myself and my life and how I want to be and how I want to show up in the world. And really that this pure happiness and joy can come from any moment in our life if we decide to have that there. So that's really where I'm at now, and that's what I'd love to share with people. And I speak on stages. I have my podcast, and I'm really just about sharing the gift of happiness, but that happiness is a conscious choice. And that, we strive so often for all these different things in our life. And, don't get me wrong, I've been caught up in that, and I still can get caught up in that. We think that when we get that house, we'll be happy, or when my business gets to this, financial profit, I'm going to be happy, or when he proposes to me, I'm going to be happy. But really the truth is happiness is available in any moment. It's just tapping into that and being aware of it and really cultivating gratitude. And so that's really where I'm at now. And I've done lots of different things in the time of opening the yoga school and of really getting into this side of things to help me grow as well. And I love to volunteer, and I spent some time in India, this time last year actually, volunteering in an orphanage in India, teaching yoga every day to these beautiful students who, they have absolutely nothing. And every day I'm so grateful for the life that I live, and that we have this opportunity to be alive, and that we can share and connect with people all over the world like you right now. That's an amazing, amazing technology. So yeah, that's a little bit about my story and where I'm at now.
Wow. What I really love what you're saying is how you found your happiness, because like you said, a lot of people today think that the job or the house or the car are going to be the things to make them happy. But just like you, I'm at a point in my life where I'm really tuned into me and my happiness, and my happiness is coming from having peace in my life and following my passion. And I think that's something that we are not taught to do. We are all taught, go to school, go to university, get a job, do these things. But we're never taught to say, what's really in your heart? What do you desire in your heart? What's going to really make you happy? I think we're caught up in the societal norms of
what the Jonas's have. And
exactly.
I totally agree. And I talk about this a lot, is that, we go into schools and we learn, that we need an education, that this is the way life should be. But no one's teaching kids how to be happy, how to listen to their heart, to do things that make each individual find this sense of joy, because we all get it from different things. But, you can go and ask the richest people in the world, and majority of them are unhappy because they have all this stuff, but it doesn't, the stuff at the end of the day isn't going to give us anything. And, for myself right now, I have my granddad who He was always a really lovely man, jolly. He had a great sense of life, and I've been blessed to grow up with him in my neighborhood. But he's got dementia, and at the moment, he sits in a dementia clinic, and I go and visit him, and it reminds me every day of, right now, all he would love to do is to stand up and to feed himself and to go for a walk, but he's locked up in this center where people feed him. Most of the time he doesn't make it to the toilet to go to the toilet. And we spend all this time in our life cultivating, and he did that. He had a great house and he had a beautiful marriage and all that. But right now, we had to put him in a nursing home, and we had to then sell the house and sell everything else that he owned because that's not life.
Mm. Wow.
So I think you're exactly right. Just it's so easy to, and I see this, and I talk to people a lot about, they might be in a relationship that they're not even happy in, but it's just easier to be that way. But it's because we're so wrapped up in this fear as well, fear of what if I don't have that house, or fear if I don't get that job, or fear if he doesn't like me. But somehow we've got to find in ourselves what makes us happy, and that we don't care about what everyone else thinks.
Yes, so true. And I'm so impressed with your story because at an early age, it seems like that's what you were on your path to. I don't know whether you consciously knew that with the traveling and backpacking to different countries. I don't know if you consciously knew, okay, this is what makes me happy. I know you said you met people and you just were partying and you were doing these things, but that's what made you happy. And
totally.
Did you ever at some point look at your life then and say, you know what, this is good. This is what I want
at
to
the
feel
time.
like.
And at the time, I knew growing up that I was a little bit different. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I knew I was different to the girls at school. Like, I had fun with them, and I had always had great friends, and I'm forever grateful for that. But when they were talking about, I just want to get married, and by the time I'm 30, I want to have my babies and I want to be married, and I was always like, really? There's so much I want to do in my life. I've always been like that. Like, there's so much adventure, and I don't know. I just felt like I just had to go out and find myself and experience it. And when I was out there backpacking and doing the party stuff, oh my goodness me, it's a complete opposite life to what I live now, but I would never give it up for anything. And I have had the most amazing times. And I always say that to the girls that I met over there, and the fun we had. Like, one morning I woke up in prison in Switzerland because I got so drunk I couldn't find my way home. We've had many stories, and I've got to do some amazing things. Like, I've trekked to Everest Base Camp. I've done the Kokoda Trail in Papua New Guinea, and I've really seen some amazing places and the way that people live. And, when you're so immersed in the moment and taking in that's why I love travel, because it takes you out of your daily routine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you get so wrapped up in what you're doing in that moment, in that day, who those people are, trying to learn that language, that you're not even thinking about anything else.
Yes, I agree.
I always say to people, if there's one advice I can give young people when they come and ask me, I say, go and travel. Who cares about uni? I'm always saying that. I say, just go backpacking, because you learn so much, and how to talk to different people, and getting stuck in countries where you can't speak the language and having to try and figure that out. Like, the stories. It's amazing. It's amazing.
I agree, because I've traveled the world, and like you said, you've learned how to figure it out, and then you learn the culture, you learn how to interact with the people. And I'm like you, if I hadn't known then what I know now, instead of going to the university, I would have traveled the world. Because it would have been just so much more fulfilling. And it's just, I think it's a richer experience, instead of trying to go to school, get a job, and make make the money. I think being able to immerse yourself in cultures and learning and learning different people. I think that's really where the satisfaction is.
Oh, for sure. And I do think that the more you go and see the world, or the more you get out of your own box or your own everyday routine. And look, don't get me wrong, I'm very routine based as well. Like I do lots of similar things every day. But when I'm here in Australia, but when you go and travel and you break that routine and you go to countries, you might not even go to countries where, it's a poorer country or whatever. But I have had the experience of going and working and seeing some really poor countries, and the world has so much to offer. But every time I land back on my doorstep here at Umina Beach, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I was born in this country, and I'm so grateful to have the beach at the end of the street. And, after backpacking for that time, and even last year working in that orphanage, I slept on the ground, and coming home to have a bed to lay in each night, I was like, oh my goodness, this bed is so good. You just forget. So I think that even just going on a picnic sometimes, just breaking the routine up and going out and doing something different just opens up your horizon and allows you to see the world from a different perspective.
Definitely. Now let's talk about your business. You opened up the gym and now you're doing yoga. Now you still have your gym?
Yeah. So I've had the gym for 7 years, and I have a manager in there now. So she mainly runs the gym, I would say, more than me. I don't pick up the calls and do that sort of stuff anymore. But I pop in most days and show my face, and I do some personal training clients still when I'm in Australia. And I love the environment. And I think for me it's like I explain to people, it's like being a baby for me, because I have no kids at the moment, and opening up that gym from scratch, I knew absolutely nothing. And when I say nothing, I did not even know how to open up Word, Excel, or Microsoft or anything like that. So I really put my heart and soul into building this gym. And my dad, he came in as my business partner to help me out to open it. And I always said to myself, I would never let him down, because I know that was a big financial step for them, and they had to sell a few things to be able to do that. And so I really put my heart and soul into that. And we built up a nice little community there. So, yeah, I pop in every, most days that I'm here, and just say hello to the girls in the office. And we have our Christmas party this Friday night, and, I've organised that for them. So, yeah, I'm still got that ticking away. But I do spend more time on my yoga school and on my podcast and speaking now.
So what made you decide to start a business? That having a background in business or anything, what made you decide to do that?
I don't even know. I loved fitness. I've always loved fitness, and I was always a fitness girl. My dad got me to my first gym when I think I was 14, and I've just loved it ever since. I love that feeling of, sweating it out, and I still do now, and I used to run a lot. But I've always loved challenges, and I always said I was going to be an actor, and I was never going to let that down. Like, that was my big goal, and I was going to be one of these actors that went to acting school and then pulled out, which from the industry, which is what I've done. But acting taught me so much, and I don't even know, really, my dad had this, we came to this idea one day. It was because I came back from overseas and I was broken. I was really, for the first time in my life, I felt really down and in the dumps. Probably the first and only time I've really felt like that, to be fair. I didn't really know what to do with myself. But my dad was a member of Anytime Fitness up near his work. And I'd never heard about it. And I was like, what do you mean it's open 24/7? And he's like, well, it's this gym and you can go at any time, and there's, might not be any staff. And I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, I started to ask a bit more questions, and then I said, well, why is there not one in Woy Woy, which is where our local area was? And my dad said, I don't know. And it was literally over a glass of wine one night, and we sort of said to each other, well, should we open one? And I was like, yeah, well, why not? It was a joke. And then my dad went to school to work the next day, and I sort of said to my mum over breakfast, that was weird last night, hey? She's like, yeah, that was a really weird conversation. And I said, we can't afford to open a gym. And she goes, I know. And that was the sort of start of it. But then we kept like it went on for 2 years nearly. We sort of kept talking about it and then not talking about it. And then my dad sort of said to me, well, if we decided to open one, would you stay here? And because he knew I was just going to, run away to another country. Would you stay here and, give it a go? And I said, well, of course I would, but not thinking that it was ever really that serious. And then it just became, one day I sort of said to him, well, we've got to make a decision here. I'm happy to give it a go on the proviso that I still get to travel every year. I made a big list of things I still wanted to be able to do. That was pretty much it. And then we decided to dig in. And to be fair, I went and I couldn't talk about it with many people because it was we didn't really know what we were doing. But I went and saw 3 clairvoyants in that time because I remember asking them, should I do this? I don't know what to do. I wanted to travel. I want to be an actor. But then there's this opportunity. And for some reason in me, I had this thing saying, stay here and give it a go. I did. And to be, it's been a great adventure. But I've loved doing it with my dad and my mum because we were always close, but it really helped us build a very close relationship. And my dad doesn't work there or anything like that, but I don't know, it just really brought us together, and I'm so grateful for him helping me out, and I think that he's very grateful for me helping him out in certain ways because they're retired and that helps them fund they just got back from 2.5 months traveling around Europe. So I think that there's a nice relationship there as a daughter and a dad, but also as business partners.
That's amazing. You go from the woman who just went backpacking around the world to having successful businesses. And I love to hear about the strong women and women who are like you, who are forging their own way. Like you said, you're not waiting saying, oh, well, until I get married or whatever. Tell me about some of the journey, some of the things that you had to come and overcome during your journey of getting your businesses started, but then actually getting your mindset right, because you have been used to just being free and traveling the world. Now you're a business owner and you got to be a little more structured. Tell me if that was how difficult that was for you.
Oh, there's been so many difficulties in the journey, I can tell you. But I've since that first job in Sydney when I went to acting school, and my boss we were in sales, and they gave me that Napoleon Hill book and got me a little bit into self-development. I really took that on, and I continually, even when I was reading overseas, I didn't really read much, but I was always very open to self-development and writing my goals down and writing affirmations and things like that. And then when I got back to Australia, I started to start rereading those books, because when I first got back here and we were waiting for the gym and all that, I didn't really have another job, and so I had a lot of downtime, which wasn't great for my mind. But I started to read a lot of the books that were in my parents' house and the books that I had put away before I left, and they were books like that, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and all about this mindset. And I started to write down my goals daily, and I started to write down like where I saw myself in 5 years. So doing a 5-year sort of plan and just doing these little things myself. And then someone has said to me, I went to a free self-development workshop or something, and someone said, you should start reading more books. And I was like, oh no, I hate reading. Because, back I couldn't really, I only read occasionally, and they were more like just study books if I had to read. I didn't, grow up reading. I hated it. And even more backpacking, I'd only read if we were really, really like on the side of the road for like 10 hours, bored out of my brain. But someone said, leaders are readers. And they said, and then there's this guy that I listened to, and he said, if you can try and read for an hour a day, it will change your life. And so I said, all right, I'm going to try this. So I started to read for an hour a day. I set aside my lunchtime, and I'd start reading all these different books on, self-development, business growth, how to build a business, how to build a Facebook page, how to do all this, marketing, blah, blah, blah. So that was one of definitely the positive habits I built, and I still do try and read for an hour a day, and it has honestly changed me. I've learned so much, and I love reading now. I've read some awesome books. So that was one of the habits that I've definitely built that has helped me grow and help the business grow. And I also decided, like, I've always been an active person, so I found that if I got up in the morning and did my own workout first thing, then I would always be more energetic and really pumped to go into work and to, get things moving. But I'm not afraid to ask for help either. So when I, first got into that business and I didn't know how to do these things, I was asking people that would just come in. I was like, hey, do you know how to use Word? How can I open up this spreadsheet? Or how can, I want to do the payroll, and someone taught me how to use Xero. So my brother taught me that, actually. So just asking for help when I needed it has really helped me. I'm not afraid to say that I'm not perfect. I only know what I know. And I'm so grateful always for those people that have helped me out. But one of the biggest challenges I guess I've had, and I've always been quite a confident person, is building up the confidence to own myself and to own the decisions I made. And I knew that we were in a small town, so I knew that people would be talking about me opening up a gym, because the premise that I started with was a female gym before I overtook it. So we had to actually shut down that female gym, and we had it all refitted out to make it a new gym, which was then co-ed, so men and women, and it was 24 hours, and we took away the creche, and we took away the all the Les Mills classes. So there was a lot of backlash, and I was getting I did get quite bullied at the time. And I remember a Facebook page that went up against me and against the gym opening. So there was a lot, but I always just said, no, I've just got to be confident and own my decisions, and just not give a don't mind my language, but don't give a shit what anyone else is saying. And of course it hurt, but I just tried not to. I didn't open the pages. I didn't read them. And then one of the biggest challenges as well was, if you go into a gym, there's a lot of big guys. And there's a lot of big guys that think that they own the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if people obviously haven't seen me, but I'm quite a small, petite girl. And I always made the decision that, oh my goodness, I have to go out and speak to these boys, because, they were doing the wrong thing. They'd be leaving the weights on the ground. They'd be swearing. But I always said, no, Carla, you've got to rule this place. So I've got to make them know that I'm the boss. So that was one of the biggest challenges I had. It was always walking out there and, if people were in the wrong, making myself, I just prep myself up in my office. I'd be like, come on, Carla, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Then I'd walk out to these guys and say, hey, boys, you can't be swearing like that in the club. There's ladies, around, or you can't be leaving the weights like that. Or, some men, some of the boys over the years have been quite bad behaved. So I've had to kick them out of the gym. And that was really scary for me as a person. But to follow through with that decision and then them give me the backlash that they did. But yeah, so there's always lots of different learning curves. And I mean, to be fair, they never stop. I get, calls all the time. I think now what hurts me the most, and I guess like anything, is if you get negative feedback. And you're going to get that in any business. But, sometimes I'm like, what? I can't believe they've said that. I can't believe that, especially like sometimes what I find hurtful is like when people are fine to my face, but then they write something in or they send it to the head office or whatever about you and about the way you behave or whatever. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they've said that. That hurts me more than, because it is like a baby, you watch it grow, and then obviously not everyone's going to like it. But when people say, it's like, oh, that kill bits, it's like a stab in the heart. But it's gotten easier over the years for sure.
Yes. Wow. So you have your podcast and you have your book. Tell us about those.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, the yoga really helped me discover who I was and what I wanted my life to be about and where true happiness came from. And it really saddens me that less, than I think it's like at the moment 2 out of 3 people are suffering with depression, anxiety. You know, they say that in 2020 the leading cause of death in Australia will be mental health. So,
Wow.
and I hear all these people every day, you know, like just they're not happy. You know, there's people that are coming in whinging about their relationships, about their life, and I've always been like, oh my goodness, if only these people, because I knew what I was like. I was so unaware for a long time, but then I woke up. And that's what I say to people. It's like I woke up and I realized what life was and how blessed we are every day. And I just wanted to be able to help people realize that they could have this other space of, you know, happiness if they decided to go there and to look for little ways in their day to cultivate joy and to have a laugh and smile. So, yeah, that's where the book and the podcast came from, is just how can I share this message with more people. And I had the book first, and that was more because someone said to me, oh, Carla, you've got so many stories, you should write a book. And I was like, oh, my goodness, no, I can't spell. I can't write a book. No way. But when someone plants a seed in my head, it's very hard for me to let it go. And it kept coming up for me, well, maybe I should write a book. Someone could edit it. And then I started to write little pages, but I could never find the time to get it all done. So I sort of set this goal that I was going to write a book. So what I did was I flew to Bali and I locked myself in a hotel room for pretty much 2 weeks. I did yoga every morning, and then I spent the rest of the days, 8 hours a day, writing this book. And I came back with a full book, to be edited and put together. So that's how that came about. And a lot of people say, oh, you should write another one. I'm like, oh, no, it was so hard work. Not quite yet. And the podcast, when podcasts first started to become more known, because for a long time I didn't listen to podcasts, but I guess I'm not sure how many years now, probably I'd say about 4 years I've been quite into them myself. And one of my favorite things to do was put the earphones in and I walk my dog. I have a little poodle. Her name's Shazza. And I'd be walking along the beach and be listening to podcasts, you know, it may be your podcast or someone else's. And they're always podcasts on self-development or spirituality or personal growth or happiness and I always felt really good after it. I thought, oh my goodness, if more people were just bouncing around the street listening to podcasts, we'd all be smiling, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling my friend, and we were just having lunch one day, and I said, she was talking about what I love, you know, what brings me happiness. And I said, one of the things at the moment is just listening to podcasts as I walk Shaz. I just get this bounce in my step. And I said, I love the conversations and I just feel like I'm talking to these people, but I'm not talking to them. I'm just listening to them and I feel like I know them, you know. And then she said, Carla, you could have your own podcast. I said, really? I said, I don't think so. It's got to be hard. And then she's like, well, it can't be that hard. If all these people are doing it, why couldn't you? And I was like, And then again, someone puts this plant in my mind and it starts ticking away, you know. And, that was sort of it. Then I started Googling how to do a podcast and decided that I was going to open my own podcast and I'd give it a go and see what happened. And that was just over a year and a bit ago now.
You know, and I love your podcast. I love what you're doing. And I'm exactly like you. I am a junkie for self-growth, personal development, motivation. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I started my podcast as well, because I like inspiring people. I like positivity. You know, it's so much negativity in the world today that I didn't.
Totally.
Yeah, I didn't want to feed into that anymore. And I figured people needed things that would inspire them. So that's my main mission. So I love that your podcast is doing that as well. And just like you, I'm always listening, whether I'm driving or walking my dog. And it makes you feel good when you can hear something that's other than the craziness that's going on in the world today. And
for sure.
There's so many different podcasts where people are just inspiring, and it's so nice to hear the different people in their different angles and how they're doing it. And it's very nice. It's a good medium
Oh,
for
yeah. And I
people.
always think, like, if I have the choice to listen to something, you know, like that, you know, something where it's positive, or a book that's going to really help me grow, or something that's a little bit negative, then, well, why would I pick the negative? You know,
Exactly.
like, I can't understand why people are doing that. But for sure, and the people it's connected me to, like being able to connect to you across the other side of the world, and I'm just so grateful.
I know it's cool, and that's how I feel. We talk, like I said, we were already familiar with each other, and I'm pretty sure we're going to keep in touch. And it is such a great thing nowadays. We can be on opposite sides of the world, and we can sit here and talk, and it's clear as a bell, and things are just, it's great. It's just technology, and be able to talk with someone who's like-minded is really always refreshing.
Yeah. And I think you can always pick up something from someone else as well. So, like, you know, when we listen to these other people's podcasts, I think, oh my goodness, I would never, like, or they talk to someone, I thought, oh, that's a great recipe. I would never have thought of that. Or, you know what I mean? So there's always something
Mm-hmm.
to learn. And as I say, I'm not perfect. I've always got, you know, room to grow. So I'm always happy to take in other people's views, and the way other people do their podcast, or I'm like, oh, that's a cool jingle, you know? So no, very grateful for podcasts.
Oh, yes. And we're going to go into the questions. So I know you listen to the podcast, and I ask the same questions of everyone at the end. And are you ready for your
I
questions?
sure am. I love questions. Please hit me up.
Okay. Who or what motivates you?
Who? What motivates me comes from inside myself. I don't know what it is, but I am motivated, and I love that. I love the drive that I feel when I'm doing something on purpose. So something that's moving me forward, or something that's helping other people out. But what motivates me is things that make me happy and that I know make other people happy. I can grab motivation from if I'm feeling a bit like in a dollar, or today, like I didn't want to get out of bed, or whatever it is. I can grab motivation from, books or a podcast. But I know that truly I'm intrinsically motivated, and I always have been. And it's not about a competition with anyone else. For me, it's more about my own self growth. I love looking back. You know, at the end of this year, I look back on the whole year and look back at what I've done and what I've achieved. And, you know, sometimes it blows my mind, because if I had asked myself 10 years ago what I would have been doing, I would never have thought I'd be doing what I'd be doing now.
What demotivates you?
A night out. If I doing things that don't make me happy. So I'm very motivated doing the things I love, like as I mentioned, but what demotivates me is things like book work, cleaning the house, cleaning the car. So anything like that, now that I know that I don't love to do and that doesn't bring out the best in me, I try to delegate.
Smart. When was a time that something was said or done to hurt you, but it worked out for your good?
Oh my goodness, so many times. Probably one of the ones that we've talked about today is when I was making that decision to stay in the country or move back overseas, to open the gym or move back overseas. And someone said to me, Carla, you can't keep running away forever. And I was like, what do you mean, like running away from what? And then they said, you're running away from who you are. And at the time that really hurt, because I didn't realize that maybe I was running away. But now I can look back and I can think, whilst I was living an adventure and a party life, I couldn't have done that forever. And I probably wasn't just ready to face my own shit and, discovering that who I really was and what I was, going to do with the world. Sorry, that's my dog.
What is your fear?
Oh, I have lots of fears, but I try not to delve on my fears so much. I do dread the day that my parents pass away. I know, like, you know, they'd been away for 2.5 months and I was really like, oh, I miss them. You know, because I do have a really close relationship with them, and I know that one day that will happen. So sometimes, you know, and I just watch their parents who are quite sick now, and yeah, that's sometimes a fear for me. Oh, I try and, you know, jump into fear as much as I can. Yeah, I think that's it for now. I'm just trying to think. I can't.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, fear. I get fearful, you know, obviously that, you know, things could happen with myself, my health, or anything like that. But I do try not to think about the fears in my life. I try and just to, you know, I always am a believer that life happens the way as it unfolds the way it's meant to unfold. So if I can be grateful for, you know, every day, then I try not to have those fears.
Is there a time when you wish you had done something that you didn't?
Wow. I forgot some of these questions. You've got me off guard. Again, like, I always think life happened, you know, everything happens for a reason. So, there's definitely times I could be more organized, and probably for me, it's just if there's times that I've said things that I wish I hadn't have said to people in moments of aggression, I guess, when we're fighting. Because sometimes, like, you know, I can get, not now so much in myself because I've become a lot mellower through my yoga and my meditation, but in my acting days, you know, and that I was quite headstrong. So if I got into an argument with someone, you know, that was going to be the end of it. So yeah, there's definitely you know, a time with my sister-in-law I said something I, you know, wish that I hadn't have said. And sometimes with my dad, I've said a few things that I wish I hadn't have said. Sometimes Carla needs to learn to think before she speaks.
Okay. Is there a time that you wish you had not done something?
Is that what the question was before?
Well, no, because the other one was a time where you wish you had done something that you didn't. This one is, a time that you wish you had not done something.
Well, that's probably more the answer to that question. Said those things to those people. Sorry, I missed the question.
Oh,
and before,
don't worry about it.
done things. Oh yeah, probably a million times. Told people I love them when I didn't. When that's, you know, and that's one of the fears I have is sometimes of showing my vulnerability.
Okay. What is your definition of success?
For me, success is just feeling that an accomplishment for me doing what I love to do and knowing that I'm helping other people and following my purpose. Being happy and joyful in every day. If I can bring happiness, if I'm happy and joyful in every day that I'm living my life, then I feel that that is a successful life.
Okay. How do you recharge?
Oh, I'm very big on that. So I've quite got like a morning routine and a nighttime routine, but I'd say like every night I come home and make sure that I have like a good dinner. I love like cooking. You know, I cook all my own food and I love that. And then I love to just sit down and eat my dinner, and I'll maybe watch half an hour of sometimes I go through some stages where I don't watch television, and then I might watch something on YouTube for a laugh if I feel like my day's been quite serious. But for me, recharging really comes from meditation, sleep. I love to sleep. I like make sure I get 8 hours of sleep a night. But my biggest recharge will come at some stage in a year where I pack my bags and I go off overseas. So like normally I'll go for a month at a time. And normally it's by myself. I went to India last year, and even though I was working in an orphanage and for majority of that time, I still have that time where I don't have the internet, I don't have the phone. It's me just completely doing something totally different and forgetting about my life here. And I always find that I come back quite recharged. Every few months I go to Bali. I'm going again in February for a few weeks. And I just do yoga and meditate and lay by the pool and read. And again, that's normally by myself. And I find that I do come back quite recharged.
What are you awesome at?
I think I'm a really good friend. I have some great friends, and I'm a connector, so I'm a really good people person. And I know that, I've got a community at my yoga school, and I've got some great friends at the gym, and I've built some great friendships with people on the podcast and things like that. And it's because I love people. I love to connect with all types of people, and I'm open to having conversations with anyone. And I love to hear people's stories.
What legacy do you want to leave?
That I did the best I could with what I had, and that I could help other people to smile and to laugh every day.
Wow. Give the listeners one motivational takeaway.
Just do what makes you happy. We spend so much time focused on what we think other people think of us, what we want. We want to get these new tights because they're going to make our bottom look better, or we're going to get our teeth whitened because we want to have whiter teeth. But if you take that all away, does it really bring you much joy? So I really think that the world would be such a happier place if we all found out what makes our hearts sing. What makes my heart sing might be completely different to what makes your heart sing, but really try and find what makes you smile from the inside out, like a little kid, and do more of it. And then share that with other people, because really smile and laughing is free and we don't do it enough. So just go out and enjoy yourself, enjoy your life, and look for the little things in life to be grateful for.
Now, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. We didn't get to this one, but how do you go about making other people feel happy?
I love to try and just crack people up in jokes. So I love to make people laugh, love to give people compliments. So if a coffee, the lady comes in, I'm like, hey, Joe, thank you so much for the coffee. I just really try and go out of my way to appreciate others. I like to often pay for someone else. So, the lady behind me at the supermarket, I'll just say to the person at the counter, can I pay for her groceries or whatever? Do little things like that. Really love to make people laugh and tell jokes, and whatever I can do to brighten up people's day, that is my mission.
That is a wonderful, wonderful mission. Tell the listeners how and where they can connect with you.
Yes, please do connect. I'd love to hear from you. I'm on Facebook, Carla Maree Simpson. I'm also on Instagram, Carla Maree Simpson. My yoga school's Happy Hot Yoga, so they're on both Instagram and Facebook as well. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a website, carlamareesimpson.com. And my podcast is called Get Happy Hour, and it's on iTunes and all those places. So please have a listen. Let me know your feedback, and really connect, because the more people that we get connecting, I do believe the more people are smiling and sending that happiness and joy to the world.
All right. Well, Carla, you continue to make people happy I'm happy to know you, and I'm happy we've connected, and hopefully we'll stay connected. But I just want to say thank you for taking time out to be on Trina Talk.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a wonderful opportunity, and I love to get asked those questions that make me think. It's been good because it allows me to think about, am I showing up every day doing, the things that I want to do and making sure that I'm leaving that legacy. So thank you for the reminder, and thank you for all your listeners for having me on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
If you like Trina Talk, please don't forget to go out to Apple Podcasts to subscribe. Also, who else in your life do you know that needs some motivation and inspiration in their life? Don't forget to share Trina Talk with them. I hope you have a great week. And remember, if you change your mindset, you can change your life. Keep striving, because success is a journey, not a destination. You can listen to Trina Talk anytime and anywhere. It's available on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Spotify, and all other places that you can listen to podcasts. If you like the podcast, please don't forget to go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, review, and share. If you have questions for me or need inspiration on how to go to the next level, tweet me directly at Trina L. Martin.